In today's video, I'm gonna be teaching you how to create that extremely cool UI animation. So you are gonna learn how to imitate mechanics behind that user interface style. Make sure to stay till the end because the moment we are putting it all together, it's gonna be the best one of the entire tutorial. So let's get straight into the tutorial that will make you a better editor. Alright, we're back in the software. Let me just show you the comp settings. 1080 by 1920, 30 frames per second. I'm gonna hit OK. And essentially I prepared only one asset for today, which is a cup. And obviously we need to scale it down. Something like that should do. And then I'm gonna right away go to the ellipse tool and I'm just gonna create a circle. Just make sure nothing is selected. Alright, you can hold shift. I'm gonna recenter, probably scale it down a bit, and we're gonna replace the order. Alright, so this is pretty much perfect. I'm just gonna scale up the cup a bit so it goes beyond the circle. And then I'm gonna hit P on the keyboard, create a keyframe for position, move it forward, and then we're gonna create a movement going upwards. Alright, now let's select both, hit F9 in order to ease ease. I'm gonna go to the graph editor, and what you wanna do is basically create a peak on the left. Alright, something like that should do. Pretty smooth. I would probably just speed it up a bit. We kinda wanna have the beginning pretty fast. Then I'm gonna rename the first layer to circle. Actually, it's the second one. And then I'm gonna duplicate that layer and I'm gonna rename it to circle mask. So what we wanna do with this is basically make sure we're in modes. So you can click here or just press F4. And then I'm gonna head over to the track matte in our cup and I'm gonna change it to circle mask. Right, so this is pretty much perfect. And as you can notice, the cup stays within the circle. But what we wanna do is only cut out the bottom part of the cup. So in order to do so, we need to press on the circle. We need to open it up, go to contents, go to the ellipse one, and then I'm gonna right click on ellipse path 1. Then click on convert to Bezier path. And that way, if we press on the pen tool, we're gonna be able to click on the upper point over here. So now if I extend it while holding shift, we're gonna reveal the upper part of the cup. So now we can actually drag it like that. So it's pretty cool because we can slide it in from the bottom and it goes beyond the circle. I'm gonna probably speed up the animation in the beginning. We can actually bump up the scale for the cup a bit and we should be good. The only thing we would wanna do is head over to the circle, to the bottom one, which is our base. And then we're gonna head over to the fill color and you can literally copy my hex code. So I'm just gonna paste it over here and just press OK. Alright, now we get that Starbucks vibe. Alright, so this is the first part of the animation. All we need to do is just select them all. So you can press on the first layer, then hold shift, click on the last one, and we're gonna right click, hit pre-compose. I'm gonna rename it to cup 1. And then what you need to do is basically scale it down, just like so. And I'm gonna hit Ctrl D twice in order to duplicate. Alright, so now what you wanna do is select one of the cups, drag it and hold shift in order to have it aligned, and I'm just gonna have it on the left. Then I'm gonna select the second one, drag, hold shift, and have it on the right, maybe even more, something like that should do. And as for the middle one, I'm just gonna drag it upwards. I'm just gonna check it out if it's in the middle. We can alt click this, and actually I think we should have it lower. So I'm gonna select them all and drag them like that. Maybe a bit more. So now we need to go for the price tags. So I'm gonna go over here to the round rectangle tool and I'm just gonna create a shape like that. Maybe even bigger. We're gonna scale it down later on. And let's recenter. I'm gonna definitely play around with the roundness and I'm gonna change the color to something grayish. Okay, seems good. I'm gonna hit OK. And as for this one, I'm gonna add the text. So I'm gonna grab the type tool and let's type in small $8. I'm gonna recenter. We can actually change the font size. By the way, I'm using Montserrat Black for this. And one more thing I'm gonna do with this is just change the color of the text, something darker. All right, now it's nicely standing out. Let's hit OK. So this is gonna be our first cafe latte over here. This is gonna be a small one. Then we're gonna have a large one over here and a medium one on top. So let's go ahead and click on the first layer, then hold shift, click on another one, and I'm gonna hit Ctrl C, Ctrl V. Now here, I'm gonna change the name to large, and I'm gonna change the price to $13. Then I'm gonna hit Ctrl V again, and here we're gonna change the text to medium, and here we're gonna have $10. And we just need to pre-compose these layers, so I'm gonna start with the first two. So let's just select them, right click, pre-compose, and call it small price. Then we're gonna do the same. Let's go ahead and change the name to large price. Hit enter, and then as for the last one, we're gonna rename it to medium price. Alright, so what we need to do here is basically select all prices. I'm gonna hit S and I'm gonna scale them down, just like so. Then I'm gonna drag it upwards, scale it down even more, should be good. And then I'm gonna take the small price and drag it to the left, right on top of the cup, which is on the left side. And I'm gonna take the large price, drag it to the right. And then as for the medium, we're just gonna drag it upwards. Now we need to kind of have it in the right order. So for this, I'm gonna just make some clarity here. I'm gonna change the cup 1 to cup 2, I mean the name. And here we're gonna have cup 3. Then the small price is gonna go right above the first cup, the large price right above the cup 2, and medium price is gonna stay. We can also change the colors of this. So let's set it to orange, and this is gonna be, I don't know, purple. Alright, so now we need the background. So for this, I'm gonna right click, go to new, solid. I'm gonna rename it to whitebg, and I'm gonna hit enter. Let's drop it below. Then the next step would be having a pointer, which is gonna be hovering over the caps. And whenever it's on the cap, the price is gonna kind of light up and also go up. You'll see in a second. But first, let's create a pointer. So I'm gonna head over to the start tool, and I'm just gonna create a triangle. Let's recenter. We can actually change the rotation to 180. I'm gonna recenter again, probably change the color of this to something darker. Let's hit OK. And then I'm just gonna rename to pointer. And what you wanna do is open up Polystar 1 and right click on Polystar Path 1 and convert to Bezier path. So here I'm gonna hit G on the keyboard, or you can just press on the pen tool over here. And I'm gonna select these 2 points. You can hold shift and just delete them. Then I'm gonna select that point and I'm gonna drag it upwards. Then let's select these 2 on the bottom. I'm gonna hit Ctrl T, or you can just double click it. And while dragging one corner, I'm gonna hold Control. Alright, that's great. Then I'm gonna go to add and I'm gonna click on the round corners. So look at the difference before and after. So here what you wanna do is open up round corners, and I'm just gonna bump it up a little bit. Now we're gonna need some movement for the pointer. So I think we're gonna start it from here. And then what I'm gonna do is just probably set the anchor point on top of the pointer. So what you could do is just click on that tool, and while holding shift, you can just drag it on the top. All right, now I'm gonna just hit R on the keyboard, create a keyframe, then create a keyframe for position. And from the beginning, I think we should start maybe like that. Yeah, this should be fine. I'm gonna go forward with the time indicator, and we're just gonna drag that tool to our small cap. All right, we kind of wanna have it in the middle. And then I'm gonna play around with rotation, and this should be good. Let's see. Okay, extremely slow. So we're just gonna hit F9 for these in order to ease these. You can also use the mid graph. Let me just show you the mid graph. Basically peak in the middle. Okay, I'm just gonna speed it up a bit, and this looks good to me. So now whenever we're hovering over the cap, we need to set up some keyframes for the cap one and also for the small price. So as for the small price, we're gonna set up a keyframe for opacity and also for position. Then as for the cap, I'm gonna set a keyframe for scale, and these are gonna be our base keyframes. So let's make sure we're in a position when the pointer is hopping on top of our cap, which is somewhere here. So at this moment, we need to scale down the cap, but it needs to happen gradually. So I'm just gonna make sure that the scale is right over here. Then I'm gonna move forward and I'm gonna scale it down a bit. Also, we need to match the position keyframe with the first keyframe over here, and we kinda need to have the price go up. So just with Y position, we're gonna be able to do so. And then I'm gonna match the time indicator with the first keyframes, and I'm gonna change the opacity to 25%. All right, so that's what's gonna happen. Check it out. So we're getting that user interface vibe, but also we need to kind of smooth it out. So for this, I'm gonna hit F9, extend the keyframes, and I'm gonna probably use something very subtle, which would be that graph. So it's basically peak in the middle, but it's not that sharp. And then we need to have the pointer go over to the large one, but we need to remain the movement in order to make it smooth. So we can't really create another movement for positioning our pointer just like that, because it's gonna be very stiff. Actually, it's gonna have a stoppage keyframe over here, and that's not something you want to go for. So what I'm going to do instead of that is make sure that the time indicator is behind these keyframes over here. And I'm going to right click, go to new, null object, and I'm going to rename it to pointer controller. So before you do anything, before you parent anything, make sure to grab that tool and just have the anchor point on top of our pointer. Once you've done that, then you can parent the pointer to the pointer controller with the pick whip, and I'm gonna create a keyframe for position and have it right before the movement ends. Also, we can create a keyframe for rotation. Let's move over here, and I'm gonna create a movement going towards the right, and also we kind of wanna change the rotation, and we're gonna apply pretty much the same movement as before. So let's check it out. Okay, this is pretty good. I'm just gonna speed up the movement over here. The timing is everything. So we got this, and we need to make sure that it goes back to the original position whenever the pointer leaves the cap. So for this, we need to actually copy these keyframes. Let's hit Ctrl C, Ctrl V. Then I'm gonna right click, keyframe assistant, and time reverse keyframes. We can actually squeeze it in, and we got a very nice movement over here. Okay, so now we need to pretty much do the same for this cap. So instead of doing all the work from the beginning, we can actually copy some keyframes. So for this, I'm gonna go to the opacity over here. I'm gonna copy this. I'm gonna make sure that the time indicator is right before the pointer hops on the cap. And I'm gonna click on the large price and I'm gonna paste it. All right, so it's gonna nicely light up. Then we can hit U and we can also add scale to the cup too. So I'm gonna copy that set of keyframes and I'm gonna make sure that the cup too is selected and I'm gonna paste it. We also need to add position for the price tag over here. So what I'm gonna do is just show all the keyframes to you so it's clear. I'm gonna click on the large price, hit Alt-Shift-P in order to create a keyframe for position. Let's move over here and I'm gonna drag it upwards. Not a lot, just a little. Okay, but we also need to have the same graph as here. So I'm gonna read the values and I'm gonna paste that graph, actually apply that graph to these keyframes. Okay, now you can copy these keyframes, paste them here, right click, keyframe assistant, and time reverse keyframes. So now we need to create another movement for the pointer, but this time we don't really need to create another pointer controller. We're gonna rather use the pointer on the bottom in order to overlap the keyframes. So as you can notice, we got an overlap movement over here, and we're also gonna do it here. So I'm just gonna set keyframes for position and rotation, and let's go ahead and create a movement going towards our medium latte. Okay, something like that should do. Then I'm gonna play around with rotation and I'm gonna add the same graph over here. Okay, we can make it a bit later. So that's what we have so far. And obviously you guessed it, we need to do the same thing over here. So like before, we're gonna use some keyframes from the previous animations. So I'm gonna hit you over here and let's go ahead and copy the opacity and we're gonna make sure to apply it to our medium price right before the pointer hops on this. Okay, here should be perfect. I'm gonna hit you. And then I'm gonna borrow the scale from this and I'm gonna paste it to our cup 3. So that's what we have. And also one more thing we need to do is just create a keyframe for position. Let's move forward, align the time indicator with that keyframe, and we're just gonna drag it upwards. Okay, that's pretty good. Let's use the same graph as before. Right, it's pretty much perfect. We actually don't need these keyframes over here, so I'm just gonna delete them because here we're gonna stop. So this is gonna be our final position until we go to the checkout. So now we're gonna spice it up even more by adding a loading circle effect. So for this, we basically need to create a solid. So I'm gonna head over to new, click solid, and just make sure to use that color. You can copy the hex code. I'm gonna hit OK. I'm gonna rename it to loading circle. We can also add one. I'm gonna hit enter. And essentially what you wanna do here is grab the ellipse tool and we're gonna create a mask in the middle. So that mask should be just a bit bigger than the cup and the circle over here. So I'm gonna double click the mask and I'm gonna make sure it's a bit smaller, just like so. Then we can alt click action save and we can make sure that our mask is right in the middle. Okay, this should be perfect. I'm just gonna scale it down even more. We should be good with this. Later on, we're gonna see if we need some fixing. So here I'm gonna add the effect called radial wipe. I'm gonna make sure to create a keyframe for transition completion, hit U, move to the beginning, and we're gonna set it to 100%. So that's what we have. We also need to add some graph. So I'm gonna hit F9, go to the graph editor, and actually here I'm gonna apply mid graph. Okay, so this is pretty cool. So essentially we need to have that circle right above the white background and below cup 1, and we're gonna drop it right over here. So whenever the pointer is hovering over our cup, it's gonna be loading, which is gonna give us a nice effect. But I can already tell that it's a bit too big. So for this, we can scale it down just like so, and this should be fine. Just try to make sure it's literally in the middle. So we can't really be starting this whenever the pointer is not here. We need to time it. So I'm gonna hit you, I'm gonna offset the keyframes, and let's see when it's gonna be a sweet spot. I think here. So I'm gonna drag the keyframes backwards, and we're gonna start that loading effect. Okay, it's too early. Also, what I'm gonna do is add opacity keyframe, move forward, and I'm gonna change it to 0%. We can also easy ease the keyframes by hitting F9. So essentially this is gonna disappear whenever we're moving over to another object, which means that we haven't fully clicked on this. We're only gonna have a full circle on the top one. So what we can do is basically duplicate this, put it on top of the small price, and we're gonna drag it to the right. You can hold shift. All right, so here we need to also adjust the timing. So I'm gonna offset it, and somewhere here, we should start the movement. Okay, it's too early. Here we're a bit longer, so we can actually offset the opacity keyframes. Also for clarity, I'm just gonna change the name to loading circle 2, and I'm gonna duplicate it by hitting Ctrl D, and we can drop it above large price. So here we need to essentially adjust it and just put it over here. Also we need to time it properly. I can already tell that it's a bit off, so let me just make some adjustments. You can use arrow keys. So this is our last one, and we're gonna stay on this. So all you need to do is just delete opacity keyframes. Okay, this is a bit off. I feel like we can start the movement earlier. And here we're starting the movement too early, in my opinion. So whenever we got that fully loaded circle over here, we're gonna make sure that cafe latte goes to the bottom. So we're just gonna create a movement. So in order to do so, we need to make sure to go to the cap 3, just like so, and we're gonna create a keyframe for position. Now let's go ahead and drag it lower. Maybe something like that. I'm gonna apply mid graph. And let's see. Okay, this is too early. I'm gonna offset it a bit. Okay. Don't worry about these two on the sides because we're gonna zoom in and you won't really be able to see that. I would say that the next step is creating a camera movement for this. We're not gonna be going into 3D. We're just gonna be creating a 2D movement with the help of null object. So for this, I'm gonna right click, go to new, null object, and I'm gonna rename it to all controller. You can actually rename it to all controller 1. Now let's go ahead and select everything apart from the white background and apart from the pointer. Then we can grab the pick whip and attach it to all controller 1. Now I kind of want to follow the movement of the pointer. So we're just going to create a keyframe for position. Then we're going to drag that keyframe to the beginning and we're going to move to the left. Then we're going to apply mid graph. And then we're going to overlap the keyframes with the help of another controller. So we can duplicate it, hit U, delete the last keyframe, then parent 1 to 2, and we're going to offset it. Just make sure it's still overlapped. So somewhere here, we're going to go to the right. We're going to also apply the mid graph. And let's see now. Okay, this is too early. We can actually extend the movement. Okay, we got a good movement so far. And the next thing we need to do is follow the pointer to the medium $10. So for this, I'm going to duplicate all controller 2, hit U, delete the last keyframe, parent 2 to 3, and here I'm gonna overlap the keyframes, and also with this we're gonna have scale. So let's move forward, and we're just gonna get closer to this, like very close. Okay, maybe I went overboard. You can also see where the middle is, maybe a bit lower, yeah. Then we're gonna apply mid graph, of course, and let's see now. Maybe should start a bit later, let's see, and maybe we can offset it a bit too much. We actually need one more null object over here, so for this I'm gonna duplicate all controller 3, hit U, delete the last 2 keyframes, and we're gonna parent 3 to 4. Here I feel like we don't really need the scale, so I'm gonna delete it. Then I'm gonna offset the keyframe, and here whenever the cap is going downwards, I feel like we can add the movement. Okay, let's add the mid graph and let's see. Okay, this is too early. Alright, so the next thing we need to do is add the background. So for this, I'm gonna right click, go to new, solid. We're gonna rename it to green BG. And also here, we're gonna pick a brighter version. You can actually copy the hex code. I'm gonna hit OK. Let's hit OK again. And I'm gonna right away add wave warp to this. Then what you need to do is just actually bump up the scale a bit. And I'm gonna probably grab the rectangle tool and we're just gonna create a mask around it. Just like so. Now let's go ahead and open the mask 1 and we're gonna keyframe mask path. And then we're gonna move backwards. We're gonna select these 2 points. And while holding shift, you can actually drag them downwards. Okay, so we're gonna get that effect. It's obviously a bit too early. We kind of want to have it when the circle is fully loaded and when the cap is going downwards. Okay, I kind of like it, but I feel like we could add the mid graph over here. Yeah. But also it's a bit stiff and boring. So for this, we can actually expand the waves. So we can extend them like that by changing the wave width. And then we can bump up the wave speed to 3. We can actually bump it up to 4. So this is going to be our kinda confirmation checkout page. So what I'm going to do is grab the round rectangle tool and we're just going to create something along those lines. So I'm going to recenter. I'm going to definitely change the color to white. Let's hit OK. Probably decrease the roundness, maybe uncheck constraint proportions, increase Y. And then what I'm going to do is definitely create another rectangle over here. You can do it within this one. You don't really need to. I'm gonna probably create a separate one, just like so. And then I'm gonna change the roundness, and actually you can't really see anything because it's fully white. So here we're gonna change the color to green. We can actually pick the same hex code as before. Let's hit OK. Let's change the roundness even more, and we should be good. Also, we're gonna grab the type tool, and we're gonna type in order received. Then I'm gonna decrease the font size. Let's put it somewhere here. We can actually spice it up right away. So I'm gonna add CC light sweep effect to this. And what you wanna do is basically grab that point and put it in the middle of our bar. Then I'm gonna change the shape to smooth. I'm gonna bump up the width, and also I'm gonna change the edge thickness to 1. Okay, so this is a very nice touch. Then we're gonna have another text, which is gonna be even lower. So I'm gonna take this, duplicate, and I'm gonna change it to total payment. Okay, we can put it here. Maybe let's change the font style to make it more interesting. Maybe something bolder, extra bold, yeah. Then we can put it here. We can take another one, and I'm gonna add $10. I feel like we can actually take that bar and round it up a bit. Yeah, it's gonna be smoother. As for these two, I'm gonna scale them down. Whenever you got different font sizes, it just looks better. So now what we need to do is play around with opacity in our shape layer 1, which is that big rectangle over here. So I'm gonna hit Alt-Shift-T, then move back and change it to 0. Okay, so that's great, but I kind of wanna reveal that order received and also that bar together with the shape layer 1. So since we're in the mode, we can actually change the track matte of these two. So I'm gonna select them two and change the track matte to shape layer 1. It's gotten automatically disabled, so make sure to enable it again. And that way everything is gonna show up together. So now we need to play around with the timing. So whenever we got that wave over here going up, we need to fade it in very nicely. So let's go ahead and click F9. All right, but we're missing one thing, which is a cap over here. So whenever we got that downwards movement, I would like that cap to show up over here. So what I'm gonna do is go to cap 1. I'm gonna copy that layer, paste it here, probably drop it on top, hit U, and I'm just gonna delete all the keyframes over here. Then we might also scale it down, and let's put it somewhere here. Okay, we should be good with this. So now for me, it's quite important to actually figure out where the movement of that first cap is. So the one over here in the background. So in order to figure it out, we need to go back to cap 1. And here you got the keyframes. So if you set the time indicator on one of them and you go back, you're gonna know that it starts from here. So I'm gonna create a keyframe for position. Then I'm gonna go back to the cap, move the time indicator forward to align it with this. And I'm gonna go back to our animation and I'm gonna drag it downwards. Okay, this is not really that perfect, so we need to actually select these two and drag them upwards. Okay, now all we need to do is just apply the mid graph and let's see the result. Okay, really nice. The timing is great. All we need to do is just play around with opacity. So we're gonna actually take opacity of all these 3 layers, which is the text over here and also the cap. And I'm just gonna hit Alt-Shift-T. Then go back and change it to 0. Okay, it's a bit too early, so I'm gonna easy ease the keyframes and move them forward. Maybe even more. Okay, the problem is that we don't really have a movement over here. So whenever that cap is going downwards, we're also having that kind of camera going downwards, and we don't really have it here. So in order to do so, I'm gonna hit U for everything, and I'm gonna make sure that everything apart from the green background, actually everything that is above the green background, is also attached to our all controller 1. But here's an important note. You need to make sure that the time indicator is not right in the beginning or somewhere here, it's rather at the end. So that way we're gonna make sure that it's gonna stay in the middle whenever we finish the movement. So I'm just gonna attach it to our all controller 1 and let's check it out. So it's nicely going downwards together with the camera movement. As for the last thing for this animation, I'm gonna do one thing. I'm gonna hit P for all controller 1, and in order to add that camera shake, we're gonna add an expression. So I'm gonna alt click the stopwatch over here, and then I'm gonna type in wiggle, and in brackets you wanna add 1,8. Then let's click away and check it out. Let me just zoom in a bit. So that way we get that extra shake, which is looking extremely cool. All right, we're gonna wrap it up here. Here we got the final result, an extremely cool animation. I love that UI style. And also you can check out the video on the screen. That being said, I'm gonna see you in the next one. Cheers guys.